Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another Supercoach Insider podcast. My name is Swiz, and we have so many special guests with us. Usually it's one, but geez, we've got the big guns for this last. It's the night before the big dance, and we finally have to start locking in some players. So we'll go around the room. We'll start with Abs Magic, the main man behind the mic. He's a superstar. Skodfather, how are you, mate?
Good, thank you, Swiz. Thank you for having me on, and I'm very excited to chat to these two young men here next to me and two champions on the show. So it's going to be an awesome show today.
Well, it was nearly 3 champions. It's only like 2 years ago where you nearly won the thing and just ran out of trades. So kind of, mate, you're a horse with a 10-length lead down the Flemington Straight, and unfortunately you got shot from the grandstands, and you just fell that little bit short that year.
Yeah, the Ferrari had no more petrol left. So JP then I think JP did something. He rigged the whole thing. JP did. I'm sure he did something to rig everything. So all the points were going JP's way that round. Like he had players that you'd never heard of.
They were
rookies scoring 150s out of nowhere. So JP he must have rigged it.
Well, we'll introduce him next. JP, former Supercoach champion, good mate of mine, pretty handy cricketer as well, mate. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, good. You?
Oh, mate, can't complain. Happy chatting.
Excited. I'm ready. Mate. Got a team almost locked in.
Yeah, I love that, mate. It's the night before. Yeah, I might just lock in my team. That's how a former winner does it. How is it these days, mate? When you come in, you're being a champion. Is it pretty just chilled now, mate? You just enjoy the ride and see what happens?
I figure once you climb Everest, you don't always need to do it again. But, I'm getting a bit itchy a couple of years out.
I like it. And in the top corner there, the current reigning champion from north of us guys here, Joven, welcome back, mate.
Thanks very much for having me, Swiz. Feeling like a kid on Christmas Eve at the moment. It's probably the most exciting time of the fantasy and Supercoach seasons where, it's just, looking forward to getting the teams out and, probably playing with my team another 500 times over the next couple of days until, that Friday and Saturday, those games kick off. But, yeah, it's exciting to be here and, yeah, loving the lead up to the season.
Yeah, it's good. I think with everybody from the Supercoach world, this is just gets the old body juices boiling because we're just ready to go. We finally get to actually see some of our players play, and maybe a little bit of nervous energy as well because there's nothing worse than the worry that one of our players is going to stink it up round one or is just going to potentially get an injury or anything like that. There's always a little bit of that tension, but hopefully for all of us and all the community who are jumping on already, know they'll have a ton of questions. It's a great season. We'll start off. We'll go around just quickly and talk about teams, mate. Joven, we'll start with you, mate. How are you feeling about your team this season?
Yeah, well, I've sort of settled on like my structure that I think I'm going to go with, or maybe like one contingency structure if teams don't go the way I think they will. But yeah, feeling pretty good now. Like everyone's looking like an amazing pick so far. They haven't scored badly yet, so all looks good from where I'm sitting. But yeah, I think a few good options, a lot of good value guys, and a few guys that entered my team over the round 0 weekend. So that was always nice. Try not to be too reactionary, but there were some guys that stuck their hands up and some pretty impressive performances. So yeah, happy with where my team's sitting at the moment.
And I've been hearing that you're looking at the value like last season again.
Yeah, lots of underpriced premiums is where I'm shopping this year, and a few mid prices, probably like a lot of guys in between sort of like 600 to 400K, a lot of guys in there that I think can, go close enough to the top of the line and make a bit of cash along the way. So that's the way I like to play the game, and I think there's enough options this year that, if they play out, it'll put me in a good spot.
I think this will be a question I'll go around the room here and ask. Over 600K, how many of those players do you have currently in your team? Well, don't need to name them, but how many do you have over that 600K mark?
Yeah, for me at the moment, it's 0.
It's 0, cool. And I know here is a player who plays on the edge, Scott. We'll start off with you with that question, mate. 600K players, do you have any currently in your side?
Well, I was like Jovan because I have a golden rule also, and there's no 600k players in my team. But unfortunately, I had to break the rule because of this round 0 game and the injury to Briggs. So it sort of got me going, and I splashed the cash. I brought in Gorn, and then I had another brainstorm this afternoon, and I was thinking, look at the ownership of Cheezels, and if I'm going to rely on my structure to win, I need to sort of will block some players. So Cheezels, I've also tried to block now. So I've got Chisel as a block, and then Gorn as sort of a pod because he's only 20% owned. So hopefully Gorn can go nuts. And I sort of did his forecasting, and I couldn't see him drop under what he's valued at now. And I went through all the games. I sort of gave some 90s, some 110s, and he still wouldn't drop. So I'm gonna sort of go with Gorn now. So I've got 2 players priced above 600k, and that's very unusual for me. So I'm like Jovan normally, and I don't do this. So I think Jovan's got the cash again this year because I'm doing the wrong things.
Does that change if Tom Campbell is actually named? Do you go away with Gorn with all the research you've done, mate?
No. Tom Campbell. I mean, I see the player they're going to name as their second ruck. Let me find him. Okay, it's going to be Johnson. I'd say. I think Johnson will be their second ruck. I don't think Campbell will be named.
Yeah, I like that. And JP, I think you're a little bit more traditional. You've in the past gone a little bit more guns and rookies. How are you sitting with your team, and how many of these 600k guys are also in your side at the moment?
3 of them at the moment, David. Not 100% if I'll go with that, but yeah, a couple mentioned already, and Lockie Neal at the moment.
Was there much changing what you saw from round 0? Have any of those round 0 guys come into your side, JP?
The Cyclone definitely changed my plans a little bit, but round 1, a couple of mid-price players changed around a bit, but nothing too major.
And let's go the expensive rookies, and we'll have a chat before we get into these questions that people are starting to throw at us. Scott, we know you're not a fan of the 200k premium rookies. Has any of them swayed you, or are you still trying to go more bargain basement?
Do I have to answer this question, or can I pass?
Mate, we know traditionally you don't like to pick the premium guys. Has any of them, like, don't need to name it, but has any of them actually found a spot in your team at the moment?
I'll put it here this way now, okay? Things have become that tight at Abs Magic, okay? My most expensive rookie right now, and I hope you're sitting down, is actually Peyton in defense. He's my most expensive rookie because things are very tight right here now. We had Nevitz, but I'm hearing words that maybe he's not going to play. So if he plays, I'll put him back in. But I'm just doing scenarios in case some of these players don't play. So Peyton is my gun rookie right now. So he's going to make some big cash, hopefully.
Oh, Jovan, you're the Geelong man. Have you heard any of this word that Nevitt might be actually in the B team?
Yeah, I've heard a bit of that going around, but honestly, from a Geelong fan's perspective, it sort of seems they've been spruiking him and talking him up a bit over the preseason. It does seem like he's ready to, be a part of their plan. So until I see differently at team selection, I'm probably still planning for him to be there at this stage. But yeah, maybe a bit of a sub risk as well, which could be not ideal for Supercoach purposes, but yeah, at this stage, I'm still fairly keen on him.
Has do you follow the Scott's route there with the no premium picks, or I'd say you'd be probably hot on a couple of those guys?
Yeah,
premium rookies.
Yeah, I'm usually like just try and get the best like job security and like scoring potential. It doesn't really matter what the price is, and for me, the guys that I like this year are some of those more expensive rookie price guys, like I know a Sardis, like I think he's got really good access to points in the midfield, and Nevitt is still on field, and like an Ashcroft and things like that. So yeah, I'm paying up this year, but not necessarily like that's a general rule, but just trying to find the guys that I think are going to have the best like option to make cash long term.
Beautiful. I'll see if this actually lets me pop it up. It does. The Carlton Richmond game. JP, the rookie's name, the main one there, Lucas Camporelli, named on the wing, mate. What are your thoughts of him? Is it somebody that we should be maybe loopholing or starting on field? How do you look at his long-term prospects and also his scoring potential?
With the Elijah Hewitt news and, a few injuries and things, I think he'll probably get a crack at it for a few weeks. Just depends. Ben will come back soon. While she's finding his fitness, he sort of came from the clouds a bit. People said he wasn't an AFL caliber player, and here he is playing round one. So looks to have tidied up his kicking a little bit. I think he's going to be a decent pick where he is. Yeah, I don't have him currently. In saying that, I might get him, might not.
I love it how the Carlton person talks him up but doesn't have him in his team. He's been very firmly locked at my M9 as my emergency. So, I do like that. And as you said, Elijah Hollands, I think I've said Hewitt a couple of times, but now that he's out long term, does open up a little bit more of a spot from him. Scott, for us, from a Richmond point of view, we've got the three rookies, Trainer, Laylor and Armstrong coming in. And then we've also got guys that have been sort of looked at as, say, a Jacob Blight, named on field. Kind of more from the rookie point of view, how would you rate these guys, sort of Laylor, Armstrong and Trainer?
Well, just before I mention, I just want to go back to JP's point with our Carlton rookie there, the young Camporeale. I actually have him on field at M8 at the moment, so I just want to mention that because he's going to actually, I think, outscore all the 200k rookies. This Camporeale, he's going to go nuts. So watch out for Camporeale. With the Richmond ones, I love Trainer. I've got him on field. I think he's going to have a lot of action. He's going to have a lot of dash from that back line. We saw 1/4 of what he can do. He's got an elite kick on him. I was surprised how good his kicking was. So he can take a contested mark. He can take intercept marks. He's very, very good. So they rated him in the top 5 at one stage, even rated at number 1 2 months before the draft came out. So he's actually a bargain at his price. So he's locked in my team and straight on field. I actually think, it's going to sound crazy, all right? I think he's going to score more than Short. Okay, so and that's how much I back him in. If he had the kickings, that is, of course. But Armstrong is going to be a slow burn. Okay, I've got him in my team because I can't find enough cheap players, so I need job security. So Armstrong is there in case he scores the odd 60 or 70 and his price goes up a bit. Laylor, okay, I'm not sure. 205k, like at 245k, you can get a Garcia from St Kilda. You're going to pay 205k for a Laylor. So I think that's a pass for me. I think maybe he has maybe 30% mid-time and maybe 70% forward. They're not going to rush the kid in, do all the heavy work straight away. So he's going to be taking shots at goals more than taking positions from the midfield, I'd say.
Yeah, mate, I agree with that. So somebody asked me today on my pod about Laylor or Lawler, depending on which way we're going with that. I feel like it's going to be hard for him in that midfield when he's resting forward, and I feel like it's going to be a 40-60 split. I just think the ball's not going to get down there enough for him to impact. Like, he looked really good in that match sim, but that was against West Coast. We're going to be having to rely on him to get scoreboard impact, and I think the 4 of us might have better chance of getting scoreboard impact than what some of the Richmond players might this season.
Well, I'm not sure about me, but I think the boy next to me might have the man with the muscles there showing them all off. So I think JP's got a big chance if he played for Richmond to get a couple of points for us at Supercoach.
Well, I think Jovan still plays, so he's probably the most likely out of the lot of us to get a kick. All right, we'll get into some of these questions. Thank you so much for everybody who's jumping on to watch us intro. There's a few good evening legends and stuff like that. So thank you, Frank, for jumping on. Thanks, Sam. Do appreciate it. Okay, Rookie Coach, howdy, boys. Sheasel, can we afford to not start him, or is he an absolute must? Jovan, we'll start up with you with this one.
Yeah, so I don't think he's an absolute must, but I would say that if you are fading him, you've got to be really confident that you're going to make up the points elsewhere with the cash that you save. So that's what I will say. If you think that Sheasel will go match his last year and get off to a 120 start or something like that, then I think just pick Sheasel. But if you think that you can, go 100K down to a guy that might go 105 and you project him to only go, low 110s, then that 100K could get you another, 10 to 15 on the other end of who you put it on someone's head. So I guess it's just, how you view Sheasel. I don't think he is a must start, but he will be very good. And definitely, I wouldn't knock anyone for picking him.
I think it's because also the issues with defense. We don't have a huge amount of rookies, so we're probably trying to go the safe option. And I feel like he's pretty safe. Does anybody here not think he's going to be top 6?
No, we think he's going to be a top 4, 100%. I think all of us can agree on that. Yeah, but yes, probably a top 1. But it depends on Flanders. It's got Zorko the Magnificent there. You got Whitfield. You got a few there. Actually, we're not talking about Whitfield anyway, but we'll talk about another when someone else asks about Whitfield. I've got some stories about him coming up. But with Sheasels, I wasn't going to start him, okay? And I don't like spending 600K on any player. I think all my spuds get upset when I spend over too much on one player. So everyone else, they get very angry. But this year I've splashed the cash. I got him in only because I want to sleep well at night, and I'm going to have nightmares on Sheasels. And he was my only exception besides Gorn.
Yeah. All right. We'll keep moving through this. Sam, are you talking about Elijah Hewitt or are you talking about Carlton Hewitt? Can you just clarify that before we get into that? Thanks, Corny. Beautiful. Thanks, Tatrum. Okay, Frankie, this one's for you, JP. Day, Chera, Callahan, which two would you pick? So we've got Will Day, obviously had the 148 last week. Finn Callahan with the 144. Both of them have buys. One's round 2, one's round 4. And then you've got your man Chera, who I've been a big fan on pre-season. So, mate, 2 to choose out of that lot.
Callahan looks like a Rolls Royce. I don't think he's going to get a heap of attention yet. Looked amazing on the weekend. He's had it coming, back into last year, practice match. He looks ready to roll. I think his buy is no good, but you just got to roll with it sometimes. Chera had 109 average a couple of years ago. Last year was way off it. Played halfback, got injured, subbed out 3 times. He looked good in the practice match and got a decent score. He's not going to get the tag with Walshy and Cripper in there, so I like him. Will Day's a great talent, looks fantastic, but he hasn't got much attention yet. He's probably going to get it out of anyone in the Hawks midfield with Newcomb and Warple and whoever else is in there. So I think he's going to get Bedford soon. He's got a buy coming up. I currently don't have Day. I think it's flip a coin, but I like Chera and Callahan out of that lot.
Yeah, that's my belief. Like, Day, awesome. Did get the 6 free kicks, 4 and kicked 3 goals, and did get locked down with the tag. So that's my worry there. Jovan, do you kind of have that same feeling, or do you feel differently?
Well, I like starting Day just because he's going to move in price before those other 2 guys. So you get to, he's going to go up in price even if he isn't as good over the next 2 weeks. So at that round, after round 2, because Callahan has his buy in round 2, he hasn't moved yet and Chera hasn't moved yet. So I think if you start Day, if he's going well, amazing. If not, he's made cash and then you can just go down to even like an Ashcroft if you missed him, or Callahan or Chera, whichever one you miss and he's going the best. So I'm pretty keen on starting Day just for the fact that we know what his cash gen. Callahan's cash gen is going to be good as well, but we get that baked in and then we get it a week earlier, I think is an advantage of starting Will Day. And I do think he will be good, even with, the tags are a slight concern, but I think he's a gun and he should push up to, 105 if he stays healthy.
Scott?
Will Day, I've never seen a player like Will Day at 490K. Last year, he spent 75% time on ground most of the year, all right? At halftime, he was at 85% time on ground. So that's an extra 10% on what he had last year. He actually dropped that because he got injured in the third quarter. He had some kind of cramp, so he hardly played. And in the last quarter, he got tagged, but still scored the 24 points. If you're worried about the tag, keep in mind what Jovan said, that we've got a price rise coming from him anyway, all right? Besides that, with the tag, he's not a 630K player. He's a 490K player. right? So if you're tagging a 490k player, you don't have to worry. He's not going to lose. He's not going to lose any money,
No.
it may delay his process of making money. However, he's got Richmond and West Coast back to back coming up after his bye. He's got potential to go up to 600k if he has 2 big games back to back, which will be in a scoring cycle 2 weeks or 3 weeks in a row. So I really like the day pick. If I had to pick between Chera and Callahan, now that's a tough one because I love Chera and I never even thought about Callahan until I watched his game. And now, after watching that game, I actually like Callahan probably because he's a second banana in that midfield. And probably Chera is probably second or third banana. So Callahan gets a bit more mid-time. And for that reason alone, I'd go Day and Callahan.
Interesting. You're always going to get this. We're going to have different opinions on that. But yeah, as I said, I'm a big fan of Finn Callahan. I was big on him in a lot of my drafts. I've been targeting him. So, and Abs, who's in a lot of my drafts, you would have seen I have been trying to get Finn Callahan in a lot of them. And I slightly prefer Chera to start off with because of the fixture where I'm trying to plan around. I feel like one of my defenders isn't going to work out, be it Short, Roberts, Perryman, something like that. So I've got Patton and a mid-forward set up so I can flip one of them to Day if I need to. But it still could be, I still could flip and start Day and not Callahan and do the exact same thing. So, yeah, it'll be one or the other. But I think Chera for me is still starting there because if he wasn't playing my boys first up, it'd be maybe a different story. But that's kind of how I feel. Fozzie, no Ben or Chris. They did get on yesterday, but like our viewers who are up in Queensland, still struggling along with their internet and their power, things like that. So it is a little bit limited. Every chance they get, they are trying to get on and do the stuff. They have put out their team reveals, which is awesome. But it is difficult, obviously, for them right now until, Brisbane and the Gold Coast region get all their power back. So thank you anyway. Yaron, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I'll do the Joe Loveheart there. Feel free to throw some questions. Hit us up on X, mate. We're happy to answer whatever you've got, buddy. Appreciate it. Okay, Jack. Is that great to see the reigning champion of the show? Such a talented, handsome man. Going to say that's one of the boys up north, mate. Who's jumped on the support.
Yeah, I was on Xbox with Jack just before, so thanks for the support, mate.
Love it.
Oh no, what's happened to Swizzy?
We've lost Swiz.
He's frozen.
And we can't control the panel because we don't have the controls.
He's a beautiful man.
Talking about internet, I obviously just dropped out there, boys, so I apologise for that. It's the weather's playing havoc out here in Melbourne today. Nelson, great friend of the show. Good evening, gents. Can't wait for the season to start. Who's the biggest fade and biggest pod for each of you currently? We'll start JP. Yeah, is there somebody who's either a massive pod or a massive fade for your team?
Tristan Cherry's not in at the moment, so it's a pretty big one, I guess. Or Nick Dacos. Pod-wise,
I like that.
I'm a bit all over the shop. I do like Lockie Ash. I've also liked Will Power, but I'm a bit scared.
Yep, fair enough. Joven?
Well, I'm fading a few of the big dogs. So, like, basically anyone over 600K, I'm fading. So, yeah, Sheasel at the moment, Sherry, Dacos. And then probably my biggest pod, I don't have too many pods at the moment. I don't really, usually go looking for pods too much. We've got Tom Stewart in at the moment, just rolling through the defense there. So I'm not 100% sold on him, but I don't know. It's hard finding value in the back line, and I've settled on Stewart for the time being.
Yeah, I like that. Scott?
Yeah, I actually like his Stewart pick. I had him before in my team, but then Zorko and the Magnificent appeared again, so I popped him in over. I found some cash, but with my biggest pod, it's 1% owned, the weapon, Ed Richards. Just be afraid when you see Ed Richards on the field. I'm expecting possibly a 105 to 110. Maybe he could go nuts and do a 120, but I doubt it. But 110, I'm happy with Ed Richards. He's going to be what you call a placeholder for now, not a keeper. So eventually he'll become somebody that drops in value. And the players that I'm avoiding, two antipods. One is going to be Smith, Bailey Smith. We're avoiding him. And Flynn is another one I'm going to be avoiding. So I'm avoiding Flynn only because the uncertainty around that ruck work. I won't sleep at night times knowing not who's the number one ruck there. So I'm going to avoid Flynn.
Yeah, I'm the same. I haven't had Flynn in. I haven't had Bailey Smith pretty well all preseason. I've been pretty strong on that. Actually, to find a pod, I feel like Chera now at 12% is my best pod. I feel like I've taken my pod out Nank because just the fact that Gorn with that draw. But we know if I'm pretty big on the Nank tank, but it's maybe the only one. And I wrote about this on the Herald Sun the other day. Is Corey Warner. Probably didn't have the biggest impact he could have had. But still managed to score 50 without any scoreboard impact, and the fact that he kicked a couple of goals. The fact he kicked no goals, but he's re-signed for 2 years, and he's got the ability to hit the scoreboard. I kind of like him as a rookie pick, slightly more expensive than I want, but at 148, he's going to still make some cash. So that's probably the guy that could come in as my real pod from a rookie point of view. All right. Will Hobbs be too risky? Probably there's no Essendon person on here, but Joven, you got anything about Hobbs type?
Yeah, I'm probably just steering clear from him to start the season. I don't mind him, like, if he gets the role, but you got to remember in that practice game, like, there was no Parrish. He seems like he could be back soonish, but then Durham didn't really play any CBAs at all. And Merritt was getting thrown around a bit as well. And even Caldwell was, being managed in the CBAs. So I would just say, I think he's a massive sub risk, Ben Hobbs, like to start as the sub or get subbed off. So I'd probably just want to see it first. I think there's other guys you can start with more confidence. And then if they don't pan out, you can pivot to Hobbs because, he doesn't move. But, I wouldn't be starting him. I think just a little bit too risky for me.
From mine, thank you, Football Fletch. Michael, looking at early fixtures, 2 from Gawn, Neil, and Sarong. JP, do you have a feeling about the big dogs there?
I haven't looked at Sarong at all, really. I'm not sure why. Just a gut feel. I like Lockie Neal now that his draw's opened up a bit without the bye. Pretty convincing. Same with Gorney. Doesn't have much up against him this week. Starting to get up there in age a bit, which is a concern for him and Neil, but I like both of those two there.
Yeah, I'm on Sarong and Gawn. Scott?
Well, I would probably go Neil and Gawn but I don't splash this kind of cash, okay? But if I was going to splash this cash, I would go Neil and Gawn. But for me, it's just Gawn for now. But I wouldn't pick the other two because of my tight ass budget. Okay, yes, so can't do it.
And I'm pretty sure that Jove's a little tight ass on this. But if he had to pick 2 of them, mate.
Yeah, probably Neil and Gawn for me as well, just for fixture. I like Sarong's buy. I don't think there's much separating Neil and Sarong, really. Like, you're going to be fine with either of them. They're probably both going to be top 10 mids by the end of the season. So, yeah, you know what you're getting.
Exactly. Now, here is a question for us. Ricky Edwards, how many 400Ks mids is too many? Abs, Scott, is there such a thing as too many 400K mids?
I'm only missing one of them at the moment, and I want to get him in, but I can't. I've got no money left. So
is that Will Ashcroft?
Yeah, I can't get him in. If I had extra 400K, I'd get Will Ashcroft as well. I got all of them, and I don't think, because what you look for is value, and if these players are decent and they give you value, you can't knock them back. I mean, if they're going to average 105, 110 maybe, but I doubt it. But I mean, 105 at 450K. They're looking about 550, 100K each. You're missing the extra 50K profit that maybe a 200K rookie can make, but you're getting the point. So you sort of you're giving and you're taking. So you can't just take. You got to give as well. So I would take as many as I can, and that's what I've done. Okay, I've taken the whole greedy guts. I've become taking everything.
Joven, you'd back that up?
Yeah, I think I'd probably just start. Yeah, I would aim to start without one of them, because then if one of them fails, you have something to go to. Otherwise, like if you start them all and like one of them fails, then you have to go all the way down, or not all the way down, but then you got to bring in like maybe someone a bit cheaper that you're not happy with. At least if you don't have one of them, you got a guy that you have a fallback plan to, and you know they're going to be around a similar price. You won't have to mess up too many other things to bring that player in. So I think, yeah, maybe fade one, but they all do look like really good value. So it's hard to really pick holes in any of them, but I would just say for structure purposes, fade one if you're really keen on all of them.
Yeah, and that's why Day or Will Ashcroft's not in my side at the moment, because I have plans to, because I've got that guy Short who have been so negative on all preseason. I know you've been pretty similar about that squad, but he's in my team at the moment, but I don't trust him, and I need a fullback. So one of those guys becomes
the con artist as Condescend. I can't believe I've done the same thing. So we've got Condin. And actually, when I was, because I'm going to admit, I did see Jovan's team reveal, and I was sort of looking at it. And when he showed me the first time, he had Short in there. I was laughing to myself. How could someone pick Short? Okay, but now he's actually in my team as well. So Jovan was on the ball from the start. Okay, so he knew that's why he's the champ.
JP, we should say that. Do you have Jaden Short, and how many sort of those 400k defenders do you have?
I've had Jaden Short for like a month, and I took him out today. So I've got a few of them.
That's so good.
Kerryman, Roberts, Short, and looking at the mids and then a few forwards. It's a definite change up for me, and I'm a bit scared, but I'll be right.
Yeah, you'll be right. You'll be the one now that'll get the advantage, because watch Short have an absolute stinker now tomorrow night. It's on, mate. Yeah, you're getting the chocolates again this year because of that. Taz, thank you so much. Appreciate you becoming a new YouTube member of the show. And not just that, but gifted us 5 Supercoach memberships, mate. You absolute legend. Track me down on X, mate. We'll have a chat. Sammy, you as well, mate. Appreciate it, mate. Really appreciate your support out there. Okay, Callum. Hey, fellas, need your thoughts on Layla. I'll quickly answer this because we have answered this. I think Abs and I are the same for the fact that his price, but playing in that Richmond midfield, he's going to be rotated through. He's going to be spending at least 40% time forward, and the ball's just not going to go down there enough for him to have an impact. I'm thinking realistically, we win 1, maybe 2 games for the year. That means the forwards aren't scoring. It's going to be hard. Like he probably still scores 60, 65, maybe even 70, but then you're paying premium price, and there's other guys there who could probably do the same for nearly half the price. So that's my thought on it. Does anybody actually have Laylaw here? No. So that probably answers it, that the 4 of us are a big no on that. We've talked about Hobbsy as well. This love for Ben Hobbs. I feel like he's just too risky. Jove answered it before. Big sub risk. They've got Parrish coming back. They've still got Setters. They've got Sardis. I'm not a big fan of that. So no thanks. Maxi, the GOAT Jibber. Okay, Zach. Hey, guys, which combination is better? Track and Zorko or Clark and Brayshaw? We'll go Jove to start this one off.
It's a good question. I would probably go... I'll say Clark and Brayshaw. I'm a bit more confident in those two, like pushing the top of the line. I think that is actually that's very even between the two of them. Zorko's got the really good early run. I think Petrarca gets tagged this week. That's one thing to consider. I reckon the tag's going to go to Petrarca. They've got the Giants and Bedford, and he clamped Dacos. I think he'll go to Petrarca. I think he's more damaging than Oliver. So that maybe just sways me a little bit. You get that sugar hit at the start. Clark and Brayshaw. I've been pretty hot on Brayshaw all preseason. He's not in my side at the moment, but I do think he's going to be he's got a few points of value, and that's nice to just find that in the midfield. And then Clark seems like he's been freed up a little bit. Not a huge change in role, but just could go to another level. Put if things go well, maybe another 3 to 5 points on his average, and he's a good pick.
JP?
I like Clark and Brayshaw. Clarkie's run last year seemed to come when Ryan dropped off a bit. They swapped roles a little bit. So I like Clarkie and I like Brayshaw. I currently have both.
Beautiful. And Scott?
Well, the question is that good that we're all going to have different opinions. And it's not that the people before me had the wrong opinion, it's because we're just going to have different opinions. And I'm going to go with Track and Zorko because I see Zorko being a top 6 defender, and I don't see Clark being a top 6 defender. So Zorko's got the points there. I see Track possibly being a top 6 forward. Okay, I don't see Brayshaw. Maybe Brayshaw's a top 8 mid, but I'm not sure. Maybe he won't get it. So the fact that you're guaranteed, or you're not guaranteed with Track yet, in case he doesn't get DPP. But if he does get DPP, you got 2 guaranteed keepers. So for that reason, plus the fact that Zorko is nearly 40. What is he? 49 years old this year. I can't remember now.
Yeah, something like
when his
that.
birthday was. But you're better off to start. Yeah, better have to start one of these grandpas early before they get injured. So if you're going to get his run, you get it early on. Let everyone else bring him in. And then if he gets injured, it doesn't matter because it only costs you 1 trade, whereas everyone else that brings him in going to have to use their 2 trades. So Zorko the Magnificent is actually in my team as well.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I have Zorko. I've been big on Clark all preseason. I'm not as much on Brayshaw. I like Sarong better. Track, I'd have to wait and see you get forward status. So it's a hard one for pick. If I had to pick between the two, it'd be Clark and Brayshaw because I'm big on the Freo players. But I prefer the 2 defenders. If anything, the Zorko and Clark, if there's a way you could combo that. So that's my feeling on it. Abs, one of our mates, Peter K. Am I the only one not sold on Flynn? Mate, I'm not sold on him either. I know Scott isn't. JP, what are your thoughts on Flynn?
Yeah, like him. Ruck's at that price. They've got a good role. They make money. I think there's not much to lose unless he gets injured. Got him in flex at the moment with a DPP at R3. I think no-brainer for me.
And Jovan?
Yeah, I like him. I think the only issue I have with him is that he's a big injury risk. You mitigate that a little bit by, in the early season, it's best 18. So you're not going to cop a really bad injury score that affects your total points, but it will affect obviously his cash gen. And then you have to find a way, if he does go down, it's going to be difficult to maneuver him to someone you're going to have to go up or down a fair way. It's probably unlikely that there's going to be another guy around the same price coming through that's, good, especially if he's in your ruck line. But yeah, I think solo rucks, and we've seen him score well before. It's just, I think he's going to have the lion's share of the ruck contest at West Coast. So I'm pretty sold on him at the moment.
Yeah, well, I haven't been as much because I feel like the fixture is going to be tough for him to start off with, and I am worried about that injury history / sharing the ruck. But I'm not going to sway people against picking him. I think that's fine if that works for your structure. Yeah. I feel like it probably doesn't suit also what I'm trying to do with my flex position, but no problems with people on him. But I think, yeah, Scott, you're probably the same with not being on Flynn.
I've got a sort of a problem. I listened to the podcast, to the presser from the coach, McWalter. Is that how you pronounce his name? I'm sure. Yep. But before I start, I just want to say Tikanis Kala to Peter Konadaris. Okay, he's my Greek friend. Tikanis Peter. Now,
I think he's still in real estate, so go check him out if you're in the southeast of Melbourne. Just give you a little plug there, Pete.
Now, in the presser from the West Coast coach, they asked him, "Is Flynn going to be the number 1 ruck?" And he didn't say yes. He diverted the question. That was red flag for me. And you got to sort of, I try to read what these coaches say, and I can never get it right anyway. So maybe diverting was a way for him to say yes, he is the number 1. But he said that for 2 years, it's been I forgot the guy's name. Williams. Williams was their number 1 ruck for 2 years, and he said the number 1 ruck will be whoever's the informed ruck at the time, and that's all he said. And plus, he just mentioned that Flynn had a good game against. Battled well was his words against Sherry. Yeah, so that didn't give me any information. I mean, I'm waiting for information. We didn't get anything. Okay, so it made me go bananas. Okay, so I went nuts. So I said to myself, I can't have him because I want information. So, but if he is the number 1 ruck, okay, then yes, he's going to make cash. He's going to do well. Just a matter of is he? So that make me very scared.
I love it. A lot of love coming for you, Jove, on these chats. I don't know if you've got all your mates watching or something, but no, you do speak very well, and there's a lot of love here for it, mate. So definitely enjoy that moment. Yeah, and thank you, Double Dummy. Yes, the studs, the Supercoach studs. We'll take it. We're all Joven's now an expert this year, so we've all been in that expert tag. We do appreciate that. How do you feel, JP, is still having me replace you that year? But have you got over it yet, mate? All right. Well, we'll ask you this one, JP. Thoughts on Sam De Koning if he's named Ruck?
Yeah, I like it, but I'm not sure I can risk it. He looked good in that role when he played it last year against his brother. He's athletic. He has all the traits required, but I'm just not sure how he's going to go getting battered week in, week out on his own and how long he can hold it up. So it's a risky move. It could come to fruition. He could average 85 to 95 maybe. It could quite easily fall off the radar pretty quick as well, I'd imagine.
If he had Lloyd Meeks ruck draw, I think it'd be a different story. But the fact that Geelong have already came out and said against Melbourne, which I think's round 4 off the top of my head, they're going to play Reece Stanley. We know he's kind of the assistant coach these days or the ruck coach or whatever, but they have pretty well already come out and said that's going to be the case. So De Koning will either be out of the side or play half back or, wherever they try to fit him in. And you just can't have a guy who's going to maybe ruck 3 weeks out of 4 and then 1 week's going to just pop up a 50 or a 60 playing half back. It's just going to kill your cash gen. Joven?
Yeah, I was keen on him. He was one that was probably you wanted to see him in round 0. You just wanted to see what that ruck contest split was like and how his scoring was in an actual game. So it hurt. I don't think I would be brave enough to pick him blind. And the other thing is there's not a lot of similar options around his price, maybe a Fraser. But if he doesn't work out, then you're sort of a bit stranded unless you do believe in a Fraser. But yeah, I think maybe just with the uncertainty of his role and I would just be fading at this point. Yeah,
for sure. Sam's come back to us and said he thinks the West Coast Hewitt's a trap. Well, he's not going to get named week 1. We know that. He's a potential guy that you could use as a loophole option. He'll get games at some point, but I do think he's probably going to be a sub risk at times as well. Scott?
Are we sure he's not going to get named in round 1? Because apparently he's training well and he's fit
I
to
thought
go,
they've already ruled him out.
Did they? I didn't hear that.
JP?
I think they backflipped on it.
Oh, they did?
Saying that he could be available now. Yeah.
Okay, so the new information coming out there. So that does change things, I guess, a little bit.
That's breaking news from JP. Breaking news. So
breaking news. That's what we're here. We've got the inside word that they could backflip and play him, but then does that mean they play him as a sub, which is then another risk? And the hard thing with that is the Eagles do play the last game of this round, so you can't have him on field. And then even if you are kind of potentially now with that news from JP, putting him, say, let's just go, it's Camperoli, and you've got Hewitt there, hoping to get Camperoli's score if he, say, goes 80. That's a big stress because then who do you kind of go to? Maybe if you've got the money to go up to Bo Allen, because we know he's missing because of the flu week 1, but there might not be too many other options to sort of pivot to if Hewitt is named in that sub point position.
Well, Scott? if you don't get Hewitt this week, you're never going to get Hewitt, because even if he plays as a sub in round 2, you're not going to bring him in. So because you've already got your players, so you're probably going to. And if he goes well, you're going to miss out. So even if he's a sub, I would bring him in, because that sub score is going to drop out of the system anyway after one scoring cycle. So for me, because especially with my budget, it's very low. So I'm actually happy to start Hewitt. The fact that even if a sub, I'm only going to have one week of cash delay, so it's not a problem for me.
Yeah, well, fine. But then does that depend on? I'm just saying, if you had you're using him as a potential loophole there, that might change things where you would have him then at M11 locked in there, or I think he's forward status too, isn't he? So that'd be maybe F8.
Yeah. So I'm not going to start a loop. So if you're talking about the loop option, different story. Yeah, that's a different. Different story.
That's fair. The Mount Rushmore of Supercoach. Thanks for that, Matty. Appreciate it. Liam, Sheldrick and Langford be good to start with or to sit on the bench, you reckon? And I think this is just what Scott was saying about hard to sort of bring some players in, especially with these guys at a higher price. Now, we did see Sheldrick first week. What did you think of his performance, Joven?
Yeah, I was very disappointed because I was pretty keen on starting him. I thought he was going to be. He's looked good in the past. I don't know what really happened to him. He looked a fair way off the pace against Hawthorn, and I don't think you start him now, even on the bench. It's too much to be paying on the bench for a guy that's got a low score already baked into his price cycle. You can get a guy that's going to go up quicker than him for cheaper, I think. Langford, I was keen on Langford until that last practice game. So I think maybe it's probably just not worth paying up for with the role uncertainty. But yeah, I mean, if you're struggling to find midfield rookies to put in, he's not the worst option because I was pretty keen on him before he dropped, and rookies are going to drop bad scores in the season. So it's not that much different that they drop a bad score in the preseason. Like rookies are inconsistent, even the best ones. So I'd still keep him in consideration. And yeah, even if you don't start him, keep a close eye on him because he can score. And if he gets some CBAs, who knows? It doesn't take much to get his cash going in the right direction pretty quickly.
Yep. All right, we'll go. Maxi, JP, Heaney, yes or no?
Tough one. I really like him. He had a great season for sort of 15 rounds last year. Dropped off a little bit. He's had the injury concerns in the past. Seems to have got his body right last year. Can kick goals, can do it all. Mr. Fix-It, can play anywhere. But I just don't think I'd pick him this year. What we got him for last year, I'd happily pick him. But 615 or something? Is a no for me.
Yeah, and the other boys have talked about this, feeling about 600K guys. G-Bags, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Hey, fellas, which of the Freo mids would you pick in your starting side? Now, we have talked about Sarong and Brayshaw. We'll just quickly go around the room. Probably one-word answer here. Joven?
Toss a coin, but Brayshaw for the extra cash.
Scott?
The same as Joven. I'm the tight ass as well, so Brayshaw for the extra cash.
JP?
Brayshaw.
I'm the odd one out. We've talked about at length. I keep saying my feelings about Sarong. Some Freo supporter offer, get me a signed Sarong jumper because I'm so big on this guy. I love him to bits. G-Bags also will take a second question for you because of that donation. Thank you so much. I'd also like you to know, should I stick with TDK in the ruck or move to a Meek or a Cameron? Now, I did a real in-depth thing about Cameron. The fact that at his price, even the 164, it's only in his cycle for 1 week. So you are very reliant on him coming out and scoring that well the next couple of weeks. And it'll be interesting because it is meant to, there is some bad weather around Melbourne. Just how quickly that comes in on Saturday night. It's meant to be hot. Does the rain come in earlier? So conditions could play in it, but he is playing Jordan Sweet, so he could get a second big score, which obviously will pivot. But then I think the bigger talk is Meek there because I thought he looked really impressive. Scott, what did you think of that question?
Well, the fact is both these players, Meek and Cameron, have double bye rounds. So TDK with just a 1 bye round, and we saw his potential of scoring. It's unbelievable. So he's like a ruck rover. So I'd go TDK.
Yeah. JP, I know you'll be all over TDK being your man in this.
I love him. I like all three of them, to be honest. Any year, you'd happily take them. The buy sort of puts you back a bit, but I'm TDK all the way.
Yeah. And Joven?
Yeah, I don't think you play around with TDK. He showed you exactly what you wanted in the preseason. And as Ab said, those early buys, they're not ideal because especially in the rucks, like unless you're really confident in like your R3, you're not going to get a great cover for them. So I think TDK, you would have to be really confident in those two guys outscoring him throughout the rest of the season to make up what you're going to lose on the buy. So yeah, TDK definitely for me.
And that extra big G-Bags, yes, I know you're concerned there because obviously they both have the round 12 bye, but there is a lot of footy to play out. One of those guys could go down injured. you might Pitternet might come back and play a prominent role, which means you might move TDK on anyway. And we've got the flex this year, which means you might end up getting a third ruck anyway, depending. Let's just say hypothetically Briggs gets to 400k. And then it just gets to a situation where we're probably all going to be looking at him because he's so cheap that you can loophole through him there. So I don't get too hung up about that situation. If you think TDK is the best, and we all do, for multiple reasons. So yeah, I'd go there personally. Am I crazy to want to start with Sam Taylor? I'm grappling him between him and Joel Frazier. Sam Taylor, Joven. That's your neck of the woods too, mate. Here we go. I got a question for the GWS Canberra boys.
Yeah, well, he's been getting a lot of buzz in the AFL fantasy community, I've seen, and I think it's different there because the price moves after one round. So that's, you just bank, the people in AFL fantasy are thinking, okay, so you get him in round one and then just trade him on his buy if you don't cop any bullets. So in AFL fantasy, yes. In Supercoach, I'm not so sure. Like, it's not a different role. It was just a game out of the box where Collingwood kicking the ball to him and he was marking everything. He hasn't had a history of scoring that well, and he's already, I think he's priced like fairly decently anyway. Like he's at a 70 or something. If he was maybe at like a 50 or something like that, I would consider it. But yeah, I think it's a bit hard to do it knowing that he really only has a lifeline in your team of maybe 3 weeks. Like, I wouldn't want to be keeping him on field because key defenders, they can drop a 30. Like if they're not taking intercept marks, and he's not a designated intercept marker, he's more of a lockdown type of guy. I just wouldn't be probably going there unless you're really confident that he can pump out, a couple of 70s and 80s over the next couple of weeks, and then even still, you're banking on dodging all the bullets and being able to trade him when his time's up. And it's a short window because then he's going to be stuck on field and not making much money and scoring poorly. So, yeah, probably not for me. Just a bit too risky, I think. A lot of things have to go right for it to play out.
He averaged 91 in 2022, FYI. I've dabbled with him in my team.
Which is obviously going to make cash, but then like obviously not long term. But yeah, I like the fantasy call. I think that's good. So yeah, no, I don't mind that, but yeah, I don't think it's a long term play. So yeah, definitely something to I'd personally avoid myself. But
Joben's a gun fantasy player. That's why he knows about these fantasy scores.
That's right.
He's got a fantasy background. The three of us, we know nothing about fantasy. That's why Joben's 100% on the money there with the fantasy call.
I'll also give a shout out, guys. Supercoach Insider league code 661862 as we're just going through that. That's 661862 if you've got any spare leagues as well. Okay, we'll continue to throw through there. I'm just trying to actually think where we're up to. What do you think about LDU as a pick? We'll go JP on this one.
He's promised so much for a couple of years and just hasn't quite got it together for a full season yet, has he? You can see him in the big games. At other times, he looks a bit laconic. He's been in my team, as has Andy Brayshaw, and I like him, but I just don't know if I can do it.
Yeah, contract year, which I always like, but yeah, I think he's going to re-sign anyway soon, which that makes me feel worse about that. JRD, did I just see a quadruple champ? I like it. Tony, good evening, gentlemen. The league versus overall teams. Would you say there is a hybrid strategy for both, or just focus on one? So this obviously, especially one for you here, Scott, because you can actually quickly get a play. I don't know if you've actually closed off your cash league. I know yourself and Horse have been working on because there's so many different comps there. There's only one overall winner, and two of the guys are sitting here for the last couple of years. So some people do focus just on league. There's plenty of games in Scott's cash league this year to kind of focus on. So how do you kind of build a team? Do you go 4 overall and just see how it works out? Do you kind of start looking at a hybrid and focus on your leagues? What are your thoughts on there, Scott?
Yeah, well, they're two different games. You can't play both of them. For me, you can start trying to play for both of them, but for cash leagues, you need to have trades left, all right? You need to have trades left for the prelim final, the semi-final, and then the grand final. when we got when we're going full ball, full steam ahead, trying to win or top 10 or whatever it is, we're running out of trades. We're going heavy. We're going hard. So I'm not sure about the two champions next to me, but that's how I play. So I go very hard. So so there is a difference with the cash league. I'm sorry, with any league, you can go a bit slow. You can go on matchups. You can sort of see your matchups. If there's a game where you're going to win, you don't need to make any trades. So you can sort of hold back. Whereas if you're going to play for overall, you're going to always you got 200,000 people chasing you. So you got to keep going. You don't stop. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think it's hard sometimes because I've put this to the Supercoach honchos. The fact that a lot of us have Supercoach Gold subscription, I would love a situation where even if they made it $50 and then $20 from each person goes in the prize pool, whatever, and then you could have a second team. And then I would able to at least focus for overall for one, and then all these cash leagues and classics I play in the other ones. And for me, like I think it's 5 of the last 7 years I've been top 1,000, including a few top 500s in there. But you'll see the couple other poorer years. Once I know it's a poor year, I concentrate on my leagues so much, and they're the ones I've won the cash league. So I've probably got more out of them from a financial point of view because I just give up on the overall, and I'm structuring my team to win those sort of cash leagues. So you sometimes look at people and go, "Oh my God, they didn't have a great year," but only a few people can be competing, and once you're kind of out of it, you do start to sort of muck around with your teams a little bit. Joven?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, like you want to be going with a hybrid strategy, like to start the season. But maybe if you're focusing on leagues and you're not really worried about overall, which is, I think it's a perfectly fine way to play the game, probably just start with a few more rookies and a few more guys that you think are definitely going to be top of the line premiums. That's the way I would think about a cash league, because you want to be having the best possible team you can at the end of the season in a cash league. I think rather than like when I'm playing for overall ranks, I want to upgrade my team as quickly as I can. That's my biggest like philosophy, what I'm trying to achieve, and then focus on getting it like as good as it can. But it's never going to be as good as a team that prioritizes, slow cash generation at the start of the season. So yeah, I think if you're playing for leagues, just a few more rookies and really pick the guys that you want it in your team at the end of the year. That's all I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. FP L Delander. Hey guys, would you start a 3-keeper ruck system, JP?
I wouldn't, because I want Flynn, but you could do it. Absolutely, you could do it. Sorry, mate.
5-keeper backline's a bit different though, because I think there's the 3 value guys, and we kind of hope at least 1 or 2 of them to become keeper. So that's my feeling there. Do you share the same thoughts, Jay?
I totally agree. You could quite easily run your Perryman, Roberts short, and 2 primos like your Clark or your Sheasel or your Zorko, and run that to start with. No dramas. It's probably the weakest line rookie-wise, so there's some merit in it.
Chris, Zorko and Clark, we did answer this one earlier, so maybe rewind the chat, but Zorko with his draw is very impressive. We know that obviously a little bit slightly cheaper Clark is. I've been a big fan of Clark, but if I had the choice, I'd try to get both. But I feel like Zorko's the one just because of the draw, obviously, early on. Any thoughts on Corey Wagner? I know the skipper the other day talked him up as their breakout coming out of Fremantle. It's just an awkward price, and we do have a lot of value. Joven, have you kind of had any look at Corey Wagner?
Yeah, I don't hate it. And I saw they had the Fremantle players doing like a little thing where it was like pick your AFL fantasy player that you would start. I know not exactly Supercoach, but a few of them did say Corey Wagner. And I don't think it's a terrible selection. I just think from where he's priced at, it's not, I don't see a whole lot of upside. Like it's only a slightly different role, a bit more distribution. But there's still like Clark and Luke Ryan back there. Their points aren't going to go away. It's hard to have 3 guys in the same backline all be sort of Supercoach relevant. I don't mind it though, like especially with the lack of cheaper value guys in defense. I don't mind having a look there and just, even if you don't start him, you start a guy at a similar price, or even do start him and then have options to go to a Fraser or something. So yeah, one to consider, but yeah, or an SDK exactly. So Yeah, I probably wouldn't start him, but I guess, yeah, I don't mind having a look at a guy like that.
Yeah, he would need to go at 90, I think. Yeah, about 90 to go at 450k. So can he do it? Can Wagner go at 90? I'm not sure about that.
I feel like if Freo were playing the way they were last year, I don't mind him for more AFL fantasy again, but it's not. I don't think it's as Supercoach just because there's more outs, as you said, Fraser, SDK, more trades. I could see a world for that one for sure, but not as much from a Supercoach point of view. Corey, great friend of the show. Can't wait for my weapon in Noah Anderson for the year. The hard thing is because of this. Noah Anderson was so hot for me, depending on what was going to happen to that Cyclone game. And now it's just become so irrelevant because they've shoved it at the end of the season, and it's probably not going to count as a score. So really frustrating because his best form is a home game, and we lose a home game from him. JP,
he's too inconsistent away from Queensland for me. You've seen his scores. I don't want that in a player, but I'm paying $550 for. You want your 100, 105, something consistent rather than a 150 and a 50. He's fine if you can get him at the end of the year, to rotate off the bench and Luke, but I wouldn't start him.
Scott?
Well, actually, Corey Blackledge is a legend himself. So even though it says Blackledge, he's actually a legend. So it should be Corey Legend. Yeah. With Noah Anderson, he's the kind of player that suits this system perfectly. The 23 games, the 23 player system, because as our boy here JP mentioned, he scores either a 50 or a 150. So when you got 23 gun players in your team, when your team is fully set up, he's the player that's going to score that 50 and it just gets wiped out of your system, or he scores that 150 and it stays in your system. So he's a really good player to bring in later on, because these 50s will knock his price down. So you just got to wait till his price drops and then eventually pick him up. And that's what I would do if although he is the captain now, so maybe he's not going to be as inconsistent as he used to be, but he gets very homesick. He misses his parents, misses his family. So when he really goes out, so he doesn't play that well. So the poor young man gets lonely.
His away games to start the year are West Coast, Melbourne, North Melbourne, and Richmond. Probably couldn't get any softer from an away game point of view. But again, it's this awkward buy. There's other guys, but I've looked at it. It will be interesting to see how he goes against those sort of teams now, actually on the road and as captain. Jove?
Yeah, I think I would be keen on starting him if he didn't have that buy. I just think with the buy, and especially because he's got one game and then the buy, so his price, you get to have a free look at it. I like where he's at, and he can break into the upper echelon, but for me, just not one to start due to the buy.
Yeah, if he comes out, so round one scores, whatever against the Eagles and shows it on the road, then plays on the road again against the D's and scores really well, then has Adelaide home, North Melbourne in Adelaide, and then Richmond coming up as his next three. It would be tempting maybe as one of these guys because, again, does everybody work out from our starting side? Maybe not. Do we get an injury? Probably. So he is one that, close eye on, because there might be somebody I've got to pivot to, and maybe Anderson is one of those guys. But as a starting selection, no. But as you said, we get a kind of free hit to have a look at maybe if we need to do a slight restructure of our sides. Football Fletch, Sam Wicks is going to surely be a breakout. I thought he was good in the way he played. Even Cox said he looks good. What did you see of that, Jovan?
I thought he looked good, but I don't like his role. He was playing a bit of a lockdown sort of role from what I was seeing. And I think they play Brisbane this week. Like if he goes to a Charlie Cameron, say, and I think he's like a good lockdown option for Charlie Cameron, I think his scoring is capped. It's hard to get on the outside of a guy like Charlie Cameron and, run off the, cheap possessions and stuff, because Cameron will hurt you badly back the other way. So I think, maybe, but he's at a bit of an inflated price as well. I think you have better options in the forward line. If he was a defender, if you could slot him into D5 or D6, I would like it. But in the forward line, I think there's a bit too much value for me to want to go there. But I don't mind it. He looked okay, but the role still doesn't quite sit right with me.
Same price as Garcia, so that rules it out for me it's if he was within that 140, 150 mark, it would be a completely different story, but it's just an inflated price. So I'm not a big fan. Aaron, hey guys, feeling with the rookie options, it's important to run 5 deep in defense. I think a lot of us are on that train. The 3 mid prices and Shees locks. How are we feeling about Zorko, Holmes, Clark? We have definitely discussed that, and the boys did throw up their pod before, which was Stewart. So that's probably the one which is a bit different that the guys did discuss. I don't think there's really anyone outside of that. But Sicily is a watch to see if he gets forward status. If he gets a couple of games where he gets bulk forward minutes, could be one to maybe look at as the season goes, but not as a starting point. So that's where I think we sit there. Dale Callahan, we have talked about that one as well. So thank you. We'll start finding questions that we haven't obviously talked on as we start to get closer to wrapping this up. General thoughts on Garcia, Smith, and Peatling, who has gone out of favour for a lot of teams. That's from Michael Scott.
Garcia and Smith, they both, I think they're cousins because they kicked the ball off their shins and their kneecaps. So I'm not sure that they're going to be scoring many points because of the disposal efficiency. But Peatling, I think, is a gun. The problem with Peatling is that we don't know how much mid-time he's going to get. We don't know his role proper. The coach has never mentioned it. So his price is decent if he can go at, say, a 95 to 100. But there are better options right now in that midfield. So I'll pass on all 3 of them for me.
I thought you had him locked. Abs.
Well, who's that?
Earlier in the year.
I did. Peatling. Yeah, but that was until we saw Callahan come into the action. So Callahan took Peatling's spot.
Yeah, no, I like that. Actually, just had a mate hit me up and say, Macca name for CBAs, scored 78 from 30 touches. So to my mate who's just saying that, Camden McIntosh at 247k, no thanks. I think he's too much of a sub risk. So thanks for that. Anyway, Sarong, and I've got the reasons for that because of that extra home game wins, everything that I've been saying all preseason. Sean, gay fellas, just to calm her down. So that's going to be one for you, Scott. Gorn, Darcy, Cameron, and Neil. Well, this is probably not the greatest question because these are all high price players, but if you had to choose one from that, Scott, which one would you prefer? The Gorn, Darcy, Cameron, Neil, and Callahan, or the Cherry, TDK, Dunkley, and Rosie? It's kind of interesting combo.
Let me digest this question now. Okay, let me think about this one now. Okay, now we got Gorn. I like it's a tick. Darcy Cameron 2 buy rounds. Okay, so that's a question mark. Neil, very high expensive but a good draw, so that's a tick. And Callahan, good value, so that's a tick. So we've got 3 ticks and one cross versus Sherry, TDK, Dunkley, and Rosie. I think I'll take that one. Number 2 is the one I'd go for.
Beautiful. Ricky Edwards, what role will Langford have? Or the problem is Clary, Petrarca, Viney, Rivers. They've got so many mids in there. The role is not going to be as good as it once was touted. He becomes really good if they get another injury to that midfield, but I feel like he's just going to be rotating off the bench, so not one there. Jove, got any more to add to about that one?
Yeah, he'll be rotating. He'll get some CBAs, but he'll also be bench and half forward. He can play forward. He's a serviceable forward, which it's a good thing for him as an AFL player, but not a good thing for his Supercoach prospects, especially in such a stacked midfield. So, yeah, he'll be in the midfield, but not enough, I don't think, that he's a must start and he's going to burn you with massive ceiling scores.
Okay,
expecting a similar role to Lawler with Langford, I think.
Yeah, Lawler's 20k cheaper.
Marks.
Yep, that's a fair call. And he's probably slightly better than Lawler in that role because he's going to probably see more ball down there, JP.
Yep, for sure.
JTO, great question, Scott. Does Tom Lynch come back into consideration now that he's been named? He is named at full forward. Unfortunately, against the beast, Jacob Wiedering. JP is already giving out a big no. Scott?
How much does he cost? How much cost this one? Okay, it's
180, mate. You don't like the premium price. He's 180.
And we didn't even know he was going to play this week. There's always a problem with the young man. So, the grandpa now. So I'd say it's a pass. I think there's better options.
100%, he's a pass. Unfortunately for us. but we are paying him a lot of money for what he did in the past. Thank you, FPL Donor. Hey, everyone, like and subscribe if you haven't. Yes, Supercoach Insider 100. Skodfather, most people are already obviously all over that. So they're the big two for us, because the other two boys happily jump on our show, which we do really appreciate. All right. Hey. Now here's the man, the moment, the myth, the legend. He is doing everything at the moment. You think Scott and I do a lot in this community. Geez, Joe is everywhere at the moment. G'day, boys. Don't mind starting Hewitt, even if he doesn't play. If VC TDK goes bananas and anticipated against the Tigers. The only problem, we talked about this earlier, Joe, what if he's named, as JP announced earlier, and what if he's named as sub? That is the problem. So you've got to have you nearly need, if you are setting up your team and let's just say TDK goes nuts, you put Hewitt on field, and you also got a situation where you've got Camperoli goes nuts and you're loopholing there, and you've got Hewitt there, and Hewitt then ends up getting named, and that mucks up all your loopholes. You need to have at least, I think it's 14K to get up to Bo Allen, which is the more likely one who's going to play. Like, I wouldn't want to sort of muck around my team too much, if you even can, to maybe get a non-playing player, because who really wants a player who's not going to play any games? At least we know Bo Allen and Hewitt are going to play at some point if they don't play round 0. But if Hewitt does, you need some sort of way around that, if that's how you're setting your team up, Joe.
And here's the question with this one. I just want to, sorry, I've pushed in here. Okay,
go, mate.
Yeah. Now, let's, for argument's sake, okay, let's say that TDK scores 130. All right. So are we going to take 130, knowing that we got Gorn in the shed that's going to play against GWS? So the chances are probably you're wanting a 140. Let's say he scores a 140. I probably still wouldn't take it, because I know that Gorn's going to go 180. So it's a tough one. You want TDK to go at least a 160, I'd say, to take it. I wouldn't even take a 150.
That's a super question, mate. We haven't had it asked so far, so let's put it on there. Do you already have a VC locked in, and how much does your VC need to go for you to take that score, Joven?
I will be VCing TDK, and I probably will. I'm starting my good friend Cooper Bell, and so if he's not selected, he'll be my loop. So that's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping he gets selected. I would be keen for him to play, but yeah, if he's not selected, I'll be loopholing with him.
Yep. So, and do you have a score in mind that you will be willing to take?
I think I'm pretty conservative with VCs, because I'm already planning on, like, if Cooper is a loop, I will be looping with him. So 130 I would take. But if you're not planning on starting with a loop, I don't really recommend starting without like 31 green dots. You want to be having as many players as you can. So, like, yeah, you'd want him to go north of 140, I think, because the extra cash gen you're going to get from starting a guy that is playing in round 1 is so beneficial. So, yeah, I'd really want him to be going, 140, 145. And, yeah, it depends as well if you have Gorn or another captain option that you're really confident in.
JP?
I've been burnt by a 0 captain from Gorn in round 2, 2023. And it just killed my season straight up. So I'm pretty conservative as well. So early in the season, I'm happy to take a 130, I think.
I won't burn my team completely about it, but as Scott said, like, Gorn could go anything this week. So I feel like, I've been a little bit conservative before in captains, because I have been burnt a few years ago, especially if I think it might have been last year when Paddy Cripps absolutely burnt me in a game. So I feel like, if I feel like 140. Usually it's that sort of 125 rule, but the fact that we know Gorn is playing in the wet, and it will be absolutely bucketing down here in Melbourne on Sunday, so more stoppages. Does that mean Gorney just goes around and gets 100 hit-outs? It could be a kind of freak score. So I don't think Gorn's going to really go under 120 and really burn us anyway. So, I feel like there's a part of me that kind of nearly just wants a straight captain Gorn. But if TDK goes 140 plus, it's going to be hard to kind of ignore. Scotty?
I'm probably gonna go 150. Okay, I'm greedy guts. Only because I got Gorn. I'm not paying 100 whatever I'm paying for Gorn for no reason. So I've paid the big cash for Gorn. So for this game and for round 4 virtually. So I'm not even going to take the VC. Even if he goes at 160, I won't take it because I'm not going to play a loop player. So whatever he scores, it doesn't worry me. I'm just going to have VC on him just for good looks. That's about it.
Yes, I love it. We'll revisit that when TDK goes 180 and we'll have that discussion. Mac, well, I guess that's work for West Coast. Don't want to miss out on Short and don't think you can bring him in with an injury risk. So I'd rather start. And this is my feeling. That's why Rankin has come into my team as well, just because I'd rather start guys who have been known to miss games because of injuries. And so I'd rather go there. But he has to start over one of Perryman, Zorks, Sheasel, or Roberts. My feeling is Perryman, just because he's got the early buy, if that's the way you want to do it. Joven?
Yeah, I don't really know if Short is that much of an injury risk. I haven't really considered him as being too bad of an injury risk. He's not going to be playing. He's going to be playing a pretty relaxed role back there this year, where they're just like their massive Richmond backline is all like 190 centimeters. He's just wrapping around the back of them and getting cheap handballs, and then just kicking it. Oh, well, maybe if he tries to kick it as far as he can, he might do a hammy or something. But fingers crossed. I don't think he's going to have the most physically demanding role, so I don't really view him as that much of an injury risk. And in terms of who I'd start him over, probably like a Sheasel, just because I don't like paying up for those highest price guys, really.
Yeah, no, I like that. Here we go. VC Nank. He's going 160. Well, we were on Nank, weren't we, Scott? So we do like Nank. He's a massive pod. It's just that Gorney's replaced him.
Yeah, well, Skids Fits has got his own YouTube channel as well. So if our viewers out there haven't heard of Skids Fits, he's a very fine young man as well. We both had he was 1% owned. He was actually one of my weapons, Nank the Tank, but unfortunately, we had the injury to Briggs last week, and it changed everything for me now. My whole structure changed because of that one injury. So, Vaughan's in.
I think you and I have talked about that so much in our chat together about Nank being our side, being both our weapons this year and being the ultimate pod. And then, friggin' Briggsy went and changed everything there. So not a big fan of that. James, thoughts on Wayne Malira going to play on round one? JP, what are your thoughts about the talking about guys who have been injury prone but are cheap? Wayne Malira.
Honestly, couldn't tell you on this one. I haven't seen
Okay,
much about him.
I'll go Job.
Like him as a player, but too injury prone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like I consider Wayne Miller every single year. I don't know. He's at a nice price, but he's at a nice price for a reason, because he seems to break down and something goes wrong season on season. I don't think he's a guy you have to start because prices don't move. I always say you can have a look. You can go down to him or move things around. If you start someone like at a D5 that's a Fraser or a DeConning, you can find a way to get to him. He's too big of a risk to start for me, just based on his history.
All right, we've got two. This might be one for you, JP. So we've got Josh. What do you guys think of Lockie Ash? And then also Lachlan, Short or Lockie Ash as a pod? JP, what are your thoughts on Lockie Ash?
I really like him. He hasn't had great continuity the last couple of years. Seems to miss a few games here and there. Looks like he could explode and do it all at some stage, and then misses. Think he, should be a player that we could consider. If he didn't have a round two, I'd probably have him in for sure. But he's been in and out a lot over the last week, so I do like him.
Joven, word on the street up there about Lockie Ash, mate?
Yeah, I like him. I think he's, he doesn't really have a super different role, more just, growing into his, ability as an AFL footballer and maybe getting just a little bit more market share back there along with Whitfield. And I think they will start to prioritise him a bit more. Whitfield doesn't have that many years left. He looked awesome in round zero, albeit the Pies were pretty ordinary and the Giants did have it a bit their own way. I don't know how he goes against Melbourne this week in a bit of a wet affair in Melbourne. That could be a bit tougher for him, but I do like him. Probably just, again, some of these Giants guys, you get to have a look because of their, you get to see one more score, and then you have a week to stew on it because of their bye. So, if he didn't have that bye, I'd be pretty tempted to start him actually. But I don't like the fact that they have one game and then a week off where you don't have to worry about them. So, yeah, maybe not starting, but yeah, he's pretty close with the options in defense being what they are. He's pretty enticing.
Scott, that's usually down your the wheelhouse at somebody who's like value like that.
I've looked at Lockie Ash deep. Okay, I've studied. Okay, I went to university for this one. So with Lockie Ash, okay, what I noticed with the stats on round 0 was at half time he was on 20. Or what was it? 25 points at half time. He didn't score. Then we saw Whitfield with a cramp, and Whitfield couldn't walk anymore. Whitfield went to the back pocket. Then Lockie Ash had Whitfield's role, and Lockie Ash went nuts. Scored 100 points second half. Now, the good thing about Lockie Ash for me is he's the reason that I've got Short, because he's my safety net. If Short fails, I'm going to divert to Lockie Ash. So that's why I'm actually happy to start Short for this, because I wouldn't usually start Short, but Lockie Ash is a safety net for me. So we get to see Lockie Ash again, but as Jovan said, and as JP mentioned, I wouldn't start him because of the fact that the bye round. So we can get to see him for another week and then decide afterwards.
There you go.
Just
Lachlan,
one more thing to
Yep.
more thing to note on Ash as well is he had like 7 tackles in that game, so that's that's just an outlier to keep an eye on as well. As a running defender, he's not going to have 7 tackles, but the rest of it looked pretty sustainable. Like, he's high marks, high kicks, so that should continue.
Kick-ins as well. Melbourne are usually known for kicking 15 behinds in the game, so that'll probably continue this week. So, so Lachlan, for your start Short, have Ash as your backup. Global, welcome, mate. Appreciate it. Bunch of tight asses. Yeah, there's a few here. Oh, look, mate, you've got the pensioner here, and then you've got the young fella and that. So, mate, it's concession rate. So they've got to, they're not as all loaded like JP down there, mate. So, they've got to be a bit more strapped for cash. Meek at R1, I think that's risk. Meek at R1 means, no, that must mean you have TDK. Surely, is that TDK at 2 or is TDK cheaper?
Yep.
Yeah, it is cheaper. Okay, I was trying to think that because I was like, there's no way you've got Flynn at R2. You just couldn't do it. It's just, I can't look past Corn's 250 this week. We hope so. Jeez, what a killer that. Wouldn't it be worth, like, Cherry is owned by, 55% of the comp? Imagine Cherry just popping out like a 90 or 100, and then Gorn goes absolutely berserk. I'm going to say that's either Hudson or Sienna jumping in down there, JP.
Sienna,
our little TikTok community. Well, we have gone a little bit over time, so we will smash through a couple of these last ones. Sean, hey lads, great chat. What combination would you go, Callahan and Garcia or Rankin and Fino Sutherland? Jovan?
Geez, that's tough. I reckon I'd go Rankin and O'Sullivan. I think O'Sullivan is pretty important to pick. I'm pretty bullish on what he can do in a nice role. The wing's not the greatest role, but he's got good job security, I think. And he should, if he gets back to the half back line, which he did a little bit in the practice game, I'm not sure how much that'll happen in the real season, but I think he's really good. And then Rankin, I like banking he's going to be a top 6 forward. And I think he's going to get better this year based on what I've seen, his role in the preseason and just, how fit he's looking. So, yeah, those for me, but I like both of the other options as well.
JP?
I'll take Callahan and O'Sullivan. Thank you.
Yeah, if you can do it that way. That's fine. I like it.
I don't
Scott?
have Garcia. I don't really like him.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big Rankin fan as well. I got him in my team, and he's going to be a top 2, top 3, top 4. He's got the midfield role. He's a gun. So, and he's cheap. I don't think we'll get this cheap again. So I'm happy with Rankin. Yeah,
100%. Shorty, no problem. If Boyd does not get named round 1 and Reedy does, do we need to pivot or do we look at an Archer Reed? What are your thoughts? What happens if Boyd isn't there come the opening game? We'll go Jovan.
Yeah, it's one that I haven't really considered because I just sort of thought he would be there. Maybe you look at if a Tom Campbell plays, but even then I wouldn't be that keen. I think maybe you just go with Boyd. It seems like he's around the mark. I'm pretty confident Boyd will get picked. I think with Max King still, I don't know if he's confirmed missing, but doesn't sound like he's going to play. And I think they're going to need Marshall to do a bit of forward work. their forward line, like they looked terrible against Port Adelaide, just everywhere. And yeah, I think Marshall and Boyd gives them their best chance to be competitive. So yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely not a Reedy. I hated sorry, that's a bit of a strong word, but I was not impressed with Reedy, and I wouldn't be surprised if Fremantle pivot to Jackson as the solo ruck pretty early on in the season. And I think the coach came out and said, like, we're not sold, or we haven't decided yet whether it's Voss or Reedy that plays. So yeah, Reedy, I think steer clear, because you're paying up a little bit for him as well, and he could be out within 1 or 2 weeks. So yeah, not Reedy. Boyd, yeah, maybe just still pick him and hope he gets a game at some point.
Scott?
Jack's deal on Harry Boyd today was we're not sure he'll be playing this week.
Yeah.
So-
Well, I think what Jovan wanted to say was that Reed's a spud. Okay, and he said don't pick the spud. Okay, so that's a short term for it, and it's a fact. He scored 20 points in a full game last year from memory. So yeah, Reedy, if he plays, I'm not going to pick him. The one that I do like is probably the one in West Coast, Reed. He may get a game, so that's one to consider at West Coast, but I'm not sure as well. But I'll start Boyd. I'll pay 99K. I don't give a shit on the bench. I don't care if he peels the oranges all season and it's the bananas. I'm not fast. Okay, so he's going to stay on the bench.
Yeah, I love it. That. So yeah, maybe you could look at a backup plan. Maybe it's an Archer Reed if he's named, just because he does have that forward defenders. But yeah, I think you can probably just still stay with Boyd. He's going to get opportunities at some point. He did just win the McGarry Medal over there. Thoughts on Dan Houston? First question we've had about Dan after he's moved from Port to Collingwood. Probably did miss him off halfback last week. God, they needed some run and carry. And there is some talk, and I do have the question here from Global about, is Josh Dacos worth a shout out? Now, my good mate Fabs just messaged me and said Josh Dacos could be an out this week, which would be interesting because we're all thinking Nick could be the one, but so just one to watch. So Houston, the hard thing again, we haven't seen it. He does have the round the round 3 bye, but we know what the quality he can produce. Scott,
has Houston ever been a top 6 defender in any of the seasons? That's the first question.
Once,
one, I think.
Was it once?
23.
Yeah, and so what's his role? Is he taking the kick-ins? We haven't seen it. We don't know who's taking his kick-ins. So if he takes the kick-ins, yes, I like Dan Houston. But if there's no kick-ins, is it not good? Okay, is it poo-poo? Okay, so I'd probably pass on Houston. I want to see it. He's got the bye round. Actually, he does have the bye round. So we'll see him after. Yeah, so I'd rather wait on Houston, and I want to see what I get, because I don't know what I'm getting.
2 weeks to look at him anyway, so have a look for the 2 weeks. Then you've still got the buy, and then make your decision after that. It's not like he's going to go up in value anyway. Like, he's pretty well peak price for Dan Houston as it is. So yeah, you don't have to worry too much about that. What are the thoughts of Jason Horne-Francis, Rankin, McRae, Smith, Sanders, Daniel, Davidson, and Stone? So you've gone all of them, and then Garcia in the guts. I know JP said before he's not a big fan of Garcia, but got Laura and Sardis there. I think if you look at that sort of forward setup, maybe just raise a hand. So we've all got Horne-Francis.
The horny man's in our team,
Yeah.
yes.
So then Rankin we've talked about as you potentially want to start. I think most people have McRae. I'm fading Smith. We have talked about him as potentially a fade there. I guess probably the bigger question out of that is that too loaded up? Should you have a rookie on field in your forward line? Because I feel like somebody like Davidson's probably too good to bench. Jovan?
Yeah, I think Davidson's good enough to be on field, but if Davidson is on field, who's your third forward rookie? That's what I'm struggling with. I don't like the depth of the forward rookies, and then even still, like, if one of those 2 guys that you have on your bench and Davidson's on your field, if one of those 2 goes down, who do you then go to? I think the forwards are quite shallow this year, so I can see a way where you do bat 6 deep in the forward line, and even if it's like, maybe you go a Smith out and a Garcia at F6, maybe it's a bit more comfortable like that. But yeah, I don't think I think that structure's okay if you have and a Garcia over a Lawler. I probably prefer Garcia to a Lawler. You're paying a bit more, but I think his role's going to be a bit better. I'm pretty sold on Garcia. Yeah, I guess at this stage we didn't see it without Sinclair, so things could change quickly. But yeah, I don't mind that structure at all.
Yep, I like it. Maverick, could a pure guns and rookie team to start off actually be viable? Then pick off the mid prices that pop off before their price rises, and use any premiums that haven't started well. JP, this is probably more your land.
I'm not sure there's actually enough rookies to start with in all these positions to, validate it. With your mid prices, you sort of bat a bit deeper, where if you're going guns and rookies, you might only have 3 per se in defence or forward. I just don't think we've got enough going rookie-wise to guarantee decent scores to get what you need out of a price rise and a scoring point of view as well. So I think you could blend it with a little bit of mid-price and go, some decent 600K and some rookies, but I wouldn't do the whole lot this year.
Love it. Jared, thoughts on Jarman Impey as a pod? Joven, let's go with you, mate.
I'm
actually really blown away by that question. So.
We give all the tough questions to Joven because he won last year, so all the tough ones go to him. So me and Jake just relax with the easy ones.
Yeah, Jarman Impey coming off of 38, probably not as great a start as I'd like. Maybe you can get him in a draft league. I wouldn't be starting with Jarman Impey as a pod. And there's lots of mouths to feed back in that back line anyway. Like Amon gets a bit of the ball. Weddle runs off. Yeah. Sicily, when he's back there, he racks up. So, yeah, no on Impey for me.
Exactly. We see you are flexing your record in front of these goats, Swiz. Yes, mate. This is my moment. This is why JP plays cricket for me, just so I can say I hang out with the best and I hang out with Scott. So, now they've got Joven on board, I can just be like, yeah, I'm the man who knows the people. Because it's definitely not what I bring to the table. Hey, somebody actually asked me a question. That's called Jared Swiz. You replied to my tweet about Day and my grudge with opening round. He's now 38% owned, so definitely not the pod I was hoping for. Looking now to fade. Raul Libba, Josh Dacos. So we just talked about the fact that Josh Dacos is a watch. Now, I don't know how much confirmed that, but the mate that messaged us is usually pretty well on the money on that sort of stuff. Libba, I did have the question on X today, and a couple other people have hit me up. The problem with Libba, there's so many more value guys. So, yeah, I don't know if any of us were looking at Libba before all these value guys started to pop. We know he's probably got a decent role to start off with Bont being out, but I know he burnt us in the past. And Raul, again, the problem is he's usually a fast starter, but he is, hasn't shown the consistency that we've needed to be a top guy. And there's too many other value guys. So sometimes it's just easier to go with a guy that's more open. Thoughts, Scott?
Well, Raul probably has even a role change. We don't even know he's going to play in a forward line now because Humpty is going to switch with him. So for that reason alone, I'm not interested in Raul. Last year, Raul was my weapon. Actually, the funny thing is, the year before, Libba was my weapon. So this year, my weapon's going to be Ed Richards. So I think maybe look at Ed Richards. If you're following my weapons, because you just mentioned 2 of them, I think Ed Richards is the one I'm going to be chasing this year. But it's a big gamble, of course. I don't recommend it. I play crazy sometimes. But Libba, I think 49 years old. I think it's too hard. Injury risks. He has concussion problems. We don't want to one little hit and he's gone. So yeah, I'm not sure on that one. I actually even forgot what the question was. But anyway, I'm mumbling on right now.
I like it. Okay, we'll keep moving on. Yeah, no, I agree. It's just go on the cheaper guys there. Thoughts on Bo Allen over Leak and Patton? I know he's out round 1, but I think he's the only one that plays from round 4 onwards. JP?
I really liked him as a pick going to West Coast. I would have liked him at Carlton if we had that pick 14 or thereabouts. Still, he's a good player. He's a good ball winner. Just had a shocker in that first Pracky match. A lot of people have written him off because of it. He's a lot better than what he showed in that showing. As a player, I'd probably take him over Leak and Patton. I think he just might be a bit of a slow burn to start. And we know West Coast players start a bit slower over there for some reason. Chesser, Hewitt, etc.
Joven, we know they traded back to go get him. and hoping he was going to land in that spot. So how do you feel about him as well?
Yeah, I like him. I was pretty keen on him, even though he dropped that bad score. Like, there was still a chance to start with him, I think, because he's got good job security. Not the most favorable role. I probably prefer him over Leak. Leak, I think he's a ticking time bomb in terms of when those guys return. He's like either a sub or out. I really do believe that. I think he looked okay. I'm quite impressed with him as a player. Just the Giants are going to be bloody good, and it's hard for a second-year player who's a mid-forward especially to stay in that team. So Allen over Leak, yeah, maybe. Patton, I don't know. I'd probably go maybe Patton over Bo Allen, just because he's going to move before his bye anyway. So, you know, if Patton goes all right, and then you could just straight swap him to Allen if he does come in. It's costing you a trade, but I mean, yeah, I would go Patton probably first. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Andy, great content. Is it worth starting a loophole now, even with the early buy? No, unless, like, as we said, TDK goes massive or Camperoli goes really well. So you don't have to. But remember, rounds 2, 3, and 4, you've got loophole guys because they're not playing because they've got buys. So you don't need to. There'll probably be one that comes up. The only thing is the loophole for round 1 could be your Bo Allen. So he's the one that's an obvious one. Because we know he's going to come back and probably most likely play round 2. So if you're going to start one, he's probably the guy as far as I'm concerned. Doing a live when footy training is back, back, boys, come on. I don't really like cheese. I think this is one for you, Scott. I think he gave you a really awesome donation the other day on your live show too. So a big shout out to him.
Yeah, well, he's a good boy. I don't like cheese. Is actually he loves cheese. Okay, he's just saying he doesn't like cheese, but he's a gentleman. He's a gem, and I actually chat to him a lot on Twitter as well, in private chats, because he's such a good bloke.
Yeah, no, for sure. Global Bergman is tickling my peanut. I guess that is. JP, does Bergman tickle your peanut?
I had a look at him the other day. He might take Dan Houston's role. He looks a composed, good player, marks well. Just not sure if it translates to Supercoach. You know, he hasn't really he had a couple of scores over 100 last year, I think, from memory, but just not shown enough for me to pick him. I do like
actually a question that hasn't been asked, and I want to ask it. I want to ask it to one of our guns here, Jovan. Yep. I want to ask this question about the Port Adelaide defenders. There's one at 220k. Is going for peanuts, and he's been mentioned a lot on this AFL team sheet. So they're saying that he's going to take Houston's role, and I'm talking about Sin. What do you think of Sin?
Yeah, I don't mind him. I was pretty keen on him at the start of the preseason, looking at where he was sort of positioned, and he looked okay in that game as well. I'm a bit worried that it sort of isn't anyone in particular that takes that Houston role, and it's more just like by proxy, they all improve a little bit. Like a Bergman improves, a Finlayson, if he stays down there, he improves. Sin, they've got good ball users down there. At his price, I think he could do. He is an option. He looked good, and he's a gun. Like, he was rated highly as a junior. He was one that, yeah, especially early in the preseason, I was really keen on. And then sort of we heard a little bit less about him. He was missing training or something like that. And then, yeah, he's come back into calculations. I don't mind it, even if you don't start him. Geez, he'd be a nice downgrade if you started DeConning and then you bank 100-something K, go down to Sin if he looks good. I think he can do it. He's got the scoring potential to do it. And at that price, he's cheap as, like, him compared to a Bergman. Bergman's priced already at 76 or something. He needs to go like 95, 100, which is going to be hard for him to do probably. But with a Sin, he doesn't need to do that. He can go like a 75, 80. And that doesn't take a whole lot for him to do that. And he's an amazing pick. So, yeah, one to keep an eye on, I think. Josh Sin, I like him.
Yeah, he's priced like a Laylor virtually. Laylor's 205, and he's got the Sin's got the defensive role, which we need players for. So it's a decent pick. If you, like you said, if you can go 75, 80, it's a really good pick.
Yeah. No, I like that. Michael, if Boyd or Reed don't get named, could you potentially put Flynn at R3? JP?
I had Braden Bruce at R3 the year I won and ended up trading out someone else when you saw him turn it on. So you could do that sort of thing, but you are losing points and money on your bench. So the chance of it happening, it certainly helps having the flex position there. I think you'd more likely want to run someone there, but you could definitely do it. And, it can work because it has worked for me in the past. So
I feel like if we didn't have the flex position, I'd be more open to it. Now that we've got the flex, it becomes a different situation. And at some point still, you're going to have to trade somebody in there. And that's the big thing. So you're going to have to probably use a trade. So I don't like Flynn. There's so much money for a guy that's just, he's not going to probably, you're like, what's he doing at R3? What's he providing? So under the old rules that was something I know we used to really love, but now that we've got the flex, we kind of don't need to do that. Wicks needs to stay away from his teammates' misses. I might just leave that one alone. Is first night fever a serious thing? Like, why am I wanting Cripps or Walsh? Just calm it down. Just calm it down, Scott. It's one for me, and I hate this because there'll be somebody who'll point me out tomorrow at the game. I'll be sitting there, and I know was it 2 years ago I brought in Paddy Cripps, and I made some other trade because I was literally watching how the Carlton players were warming up. And I'm like, oh, I really like the drills they're doing. So I traded them in. Actually paid off for me as well. But yeah, first night fever is a serious thing, Scott.
They both got their round 12 bye. We're going to have issues in round 12 if we're not sort of careful who we bring in there. So that reason alone, I wouldn't be interested because we've got so much better players. We're going to still bring in the Bont to come in. We're still going to bring in the Port Boys Butters to come in. So I would pass on both of them and maybe pick up Cripps on the run home because that's when he normally goes nuts. So, I'd look for Cripps later on.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan about Cripps anyway. So how many 170 to 200 games, 200K rookies do you guys have? We did talk about this earlier. Scott, he's probably got none. I think Jovan's got at least a couple in there. JP, probably whole team is 170 and 210 K guys, so we don't need to have a look at that. No way you don't take a 140. There you go, JP. He's got six. So actually, I should see mine. What do I have there? I've definitely got two. Actually, I think I've only got the two at the moment. So I feel like I'm tracking a bit like Scott these days. And there we go. It's the 4 for Jovan. As we go through, a bit of talk about the VC. I like the fact that Joe's been doing that.
Agreed, Joey.
Let's go on. Thoughts on, here we go, Scott. Thoughts on Richards, boys. Got Sarong M1, Rosie M3, and Richards at M2. Scott, somebody's stolen your weapon.
Oh, I've got Richards at M1, so because that's where the weapons belong. So I think Richards is going to have a big year. He's a good inside and outside player. Elite kick. He's got players that will pass him the ball. He's got Libba that's going to give him a lot of balls. So he's going to be a jet. And there's no Trelaw, there's no Bont. He's a second banana there now, so he'll do well. I can see a 110 average up until when Bont comes in, and maybe I'll just upgrade him to one of those fallen primos round 6 or so.
Yep, 100% there, mate. Where are we next? It is we've talked about Petrarca earlier, mate. So they're probably a little bit split on that. But my worry about him is the ribs and what happens if he gets a knock. Jovan?
Yeah, I actually like him. I do like him where he's priced at. We've seen him do it before. Like he was a perennial top 10 midfielder and like in the top 5 of, highest scoring players in the whole competition. So, and he looked really good. He passed the eye test in that practice game. I'm not really that worried about his ribs. Like ribs, it's a bit of an unlucky injury. Like it's not really one that, if he's coming off a few hammies or knees or something, but contact injuries like that, they're not really super likely to keep occurring. Like I don't think that's really been a thing in the past. So yeah, I like him where he's priced at. If you're bullish on him, and then as Abs was saying before, if he gets good midfield time, he could be a top 10 midfielder. If he plays a bit more forward, he could be a top 6 forward. So it's, you sort of get a bit of a fallback, even if he's not getting huge CBAs, that he goes in your forward line and he's an automatic top 4 forward probably. So yeah, I like him.
Yes, Scott, anything to add there?
Everything Jovan said, 100% agree. So yeah, nothing to add to that.
Yeah, and JP's nodding as well there. I'm just more worried, especially because the mental health side. I feel like if he got a knock, how's that going to show up for him? But yeah, no, I completely understand that. Does Chera scare you because he's the 4th banana? I don't actually think he needs to be the. It doesn't worry him if he's the 4th because he's so good still. He'll get involved. He'll be up at contests, and yeah, I think he'll be the 3rd as well. I agree, JP. Do you want to share a little bit more about that?
Georgie Hewitt's going to play your defensive midfielder role. I think it's, Cripps, Walsh and Chera, your top 3. Walsh was actually named half forward flank, I think. So Chera's going to get some good. Too concerned about him being, 4th banana in there, and he's not going to get tagged. So happy to roll.
And he went 107 off 57% CBAs in his highest scoring year. So he's not a guy that needs huge CBAs. He can score off a half-back or a wing or something. The CBAs are an added bonus, but if he's not getting 70%, you don't have to worry about it too much. He's still going to score.
Love it.
Player in the midfield as well, but coming through from half-back, I think you get a bit of possession there.
Now, this is the one I got stitched up about a couple of weeks ago. I just going around the community like, so who does Jovan barrack for? And we're sitting off air. Like we did actually a podcast. We did a preseason podcast, Melbourne Fremantle, and we're talking off air. He's like, I actually don't support the Ds. It is probably one of the myths that's been going around. Who do you support, mate?
I don't know if you can see in the background there, I've got a little Cats poster. I'm a mad Geelong fan. So yeah, not a D's fan. I like Caleb Windsor because he was my team name last year. But yeah, the Mighty Cats for me.
Yes. So that is a rumor going around. Xavier Lindsay, I'd like to see where he's named. If he's named on field, it's still, I probably might like him slightly better than Langford. But again, those probably Melbourne rookies didn't probably put up the performances that we wanted during the preseason, but it's somebody I did look at. Scott?
He could be also a sub risk, so I'm not sure I'll be comfortable paying that much money for a rookie. I mean, my most expensive rookie is $132K, so he's way past the budget for me, so it's a no.
I agree with Legend here with the fact that I think he's probably got a better role for Langford to start off with now that all the Melbourne midfielders are back and that wing half back. But as you said, he could be a sub-affected guy. So got to kind of have to look at it and where he's named. The hard thing with Melbourne is they're going to have an extended bench tomorrow. So I'm expecting to probably see Tom Campbell, Langford, and Xavier Lindsay all part of that extended bench. And that's going to make it really hard for us to include. I know it's a rolling lockout, but you've kind of got to then have backup plans if you're looking at these guys, because we'll probably get the final information sometime on Saturday, and we might already have other games that have played before we can sort of lock in those teams. So that makes it really difficult for us. Any viable on-field defender rookies, don't want to start any of them. And this is why I think so many of us are 5 deep in defense, Jovan.
Yeah, maybe Pryor. He's sort of been rolling through there in my side. Not really that sold on him. Just more of a. I guess you just hope that he scores okay. He's got good VFL numbers. Pryor. That was one thing I saw. He's in the VFL. He had a bit more of a free license to roam around, and the Bombers chip it around their back line a bit. I could just see him. If he ekes out a 60, I mean, he's expensive, but. One other thing to consider is that you only need this D6 for 1 week at the moment, and then you get 3 weeks of best 18. Your rookie defenders probably are just going to drop out of your score. So, yeah, I mean, if you're not happy, I probably wouldn't start Reed on field, but it's not the end of the world. You're only copying the bad score for 1 week. So, yeah, they're a bad bunch this year, the rookie defenders. It's slim pickings back there. So, yeah, I don't know. Take your pick. It could be a bit of a roulette.
Luke training for 1 week.
What about Connor O'Sullivan?
Yeah, go on. Connor O'Sullivan, JP?
Yeah, what do you think about him, Joe?
Yeah, I like him. I don't think his scoring potential is going to be that great. Just playing as a sort of key defender, but he did seem to roll off. I was really impressed with him in the first practice game. He rolled off, and he's a great runner for a big fella. He gets, covers a lot of ground. I think, I don't mind him, but I think he's sort of vying for that like sixth defender spot with like a Kolajasny for Geelong. So his job security is the only thing that worries me. I think if he played, he could score okay and be viable. He was in after the first practice game, but then didn't get a whole lot of game time in the second one. So yeah, I think he's going to be on the edge of being dropped. But I think he's a gun, and if other guys don't get named, he's not the worst shout at a D6.
I think Collar's out for 3 or 4 weeks now, from what I read on the injury report. So and Buse is out for 12 weeks. Does that help his job security a little bit? I mean, 4 weeks probably not enough to get enough cash, but then he has to hold his spot. So maybe not, unless STK goes to the ruck. Then there's another spot open in that back line because STK is gone. So is that a possibility?
Yeah, I hadn't seen that, but Jake Kolajasny with groin issues. So I think that really opens it up for Connor O'Sullivan. Actually, he's not in my side at the moment, but he is actually a good option because I think they rate him really highly, Geelong, and he's looked good. He's filled out a little bit over the off season. Second year in the system, they rate him highly. I actually think he is a viable starting option. A little bit inflated price, but with those defenders, going out, I think definitely for the first 3 rounds, he'll probably get a good run at it. So, you can look at O'Sullivan for sure.
And there's a world there because it's going to be about 36, 37 degrees on Saturday as well, that they might need some of these younger fellas to help run out the game. There's always, it goes 2 ways. Sometimes they look at you need the seasoned guys, but we only saw what happened with Collingwood last week and the heat and some of the older guys getting run off their legs, especially this time of the year. So you could definitely see him starting this week if Geelong need a little bit more youth around that side.
Yep.
All right, evening. Great chat. Bailey Smith, O'Driscoll, Sanders versus Hugo Garcia. We've talked a bit about these guys too. So sort of have a little look up. I know a couple of us aren't as big of a fan, but we probably should ask Jovan because he is the Geelong supporter. What are your thoughts about Bailey Smith, mate?
Yeah, I'm nowhere near as sold as I once was. He's very close to dropping out of my team. I think just because he has really high ownership, it's probably the only thing that is keeping him in my team. But at the same time, I don't really feel like he's a guy that's going to burn you. He's not going to be getting huge CBAs, and he's not even really that cheap. Like, he still needs to go 95 probably to be a worthwhile pick. So he's getting worse and worse as an option for me as the preseason goes on. Unfortunately, Baslenko, I still think he's a jet, but just his Supercoach scoring prospects this year with the way the Geelong side's set up and the way they score and his interrupted preseason, I can just see it, not panning out the way some people think.
Yeah, I noticed with Geelong. Yeah, I noticed with Geelong last year, their stats, their possessions, their number 2 possession getter, their highest possessions was Myers, a half forward, had more possessions than the entire midfield. So if their midfielders aren't getting the ball and their half backs and their half forwards are getting the ball, it's the way Geelong play a different game to most other teams. So it's sort of, they don't have like 40 touches on a midfielder. And usually I found last year or the year before when I owned Smith, he needed 40 touches just to score 130. I can't see him getting those 40 touches. He may get 25 to 30 if half of those are clangers. Okay, so he's going to have 15 proper disposals. So I'm not sure about his scoring. That's the only issue with him. He needs the touches.
Yeah, agree. I did answer this one before, Max Bingers, about Corey Wagner. I quite like him, maybe not as much as a classic to start, but he could be one. If he starts really well, we need options in case Short or Perryman or one of these guys stinks it up. So just one to watch. I do have him in quite a few draft leagues that I picked him up as a D5, D6 option, which I'm really wrapped about.
Young Maxi is from our Richmond forum as well.
He sure is.
He's the 14-year-old young gun, Maxi, and he's only 14, and he plays like a jet. He actually got one of the top scores in our Scott Favre League one of the week, so he's doing well. And say hello to your brother, Max. Okay, I know his brother follows me, so we're good friends with his brother, who's a younger boy.
Beautiful. Talking about good friends, this guy got me down to the Parkfield Cricket Club originally. So, Lukey, thank you for joining on, mate. You're a great mate for me. With all the primo injuries, could this be the year of the value mid prices? Yeah, mate, you're talking to the converted here. These guys are all about the valued mid prices. And I know we have a question down here near as we're wrapping this up, as with a couple of these ones with Swank saying, I hate starting way too many mid prices. Unfortunately, because I know traditionally a lot of people in Supercoach like to have a little bit more of that guns and rookies. It is starting to come a lot more like AFL fantasy. We've got the flex, we've got the extra trades. So that's why we're sort of playing this way now. And because of the value, especially with the value options that we have, can deliver similar to the premium options anyway. And we've got so many trades that we can kind of, pivot if we need to. So that kind of answers that. So I feel like it is the year of the value. You don't need to talk, about these guys because Jovan won it with value picks last year and Scott nearly won it his year. I'm doing that. So yeah, no, I think this year, absolutely no different at all. So we've got one, Oximus, Track and Rankin, or Track and Rosie. So really it's Rankin versus Rosie, Track under the radar. So Jovan has talked about him earlier. Its second option means sort of Davidson at F6, which I talked earlier about. I like. Where do you guys sit on that? Let's just look isolation because we haven't talked about Rosie at all. Rankin versus Rosie, JP.
Hard to see Rosie Rankin. I'm not sure if he's going to get the centre bounces. They talk him up in there, but they've got a lot of moving parts in the midfield at Adelaide. So I think he'll get, a certain amount of time in there, but he does hammies, gets injured a bit. So I'd probably prefer Rosie with Butters out early in that role, scoring the points. I think he'll probably score a bit better, but then you've got Rankin as a forward as opposed to picking a mid at 5.29. So I'd probably take Rosie in that role.
I've got both. That's my feeling. Jovan?
Yeah, I've got both, but if I was picking between those two options, I'd probably go Rankin. I think he can score close enough to Rosie, and he's going to be a top 4 forward for sure. Could be top 2, could be top 1 forward if things go his way and he stays healthy. So yeah, Rankin for me, but I like both.
Scott?
Yeah, I've got both as well, but as Jovan said, one you're going to keep, one you're going to trade out. So because Rosie's not going to be a top 8, so you're going to upgrade him, whereas Rankin will be a top 4, so you're going to keep him so you save a trade. So for that reason, I'm keeping Rankin.
Beautiful. Scotty, definitely for Joe here. Holmes or Stewart?
Yes, I like Stewart, but I think there's not really much wrong with either of them, to be honest. I like both of them as options. I guess it sort of comes down to, personal preference. I think they should score similar to each other. Stewart, I'm just tipping a bit of a bounce back from last year. He had a few things go wrong, but, he seems to have things go wrong every year. So maybe it's just wishful thinking as a Geelong fan, wanting to see him get back to his best and stay healthy. But, yeah, Stewart slightly for me. I think they're both good.
Yeah. Ian, most of us are looking at all these value guys, and there's Will Ashcroft in there, and there's other guys as well. Personally, I've got 3 of them at the moment. Scott, I think you may even have all 4. So, yeah, mate, it's the year of the value. So, like, we've been talking about that nonstop through this. Thank you so much, MJ. I've probably now outdone you with the amount of podcasts I put out this preseason, but you're an absolute legend. Thank you for letting me come on your show. If you haven't checked him out, Coach's Panel does Supercoach and AFL Fantasy, draft, all that sort of stuff. So thank you so much for joining in too. So you and Joe. Max Bingers again is Gorn, Cherry, and TDK. And so having the 3 ruck set up, I think it's don't even worry about the fact that it's these names, but has the 3 premiums 3 premium rucks tempted you at any point there, Scott?
Very much so. At the start of the year, I was going to start with the 3 rucks, but because there's so much value out there now, I don't have the money for it, so I'm broke. If we had Shrek at 530k, I was really interested, but Shrek ruined all those plans. So when he got injured or whatever, missing the game. So no, at the moment it's a no.
Yep. And Joven?
Yeah, no for me. I'm fading both of those 2 big rucks. Just think there's value to be had elsewhere.
Yep. And JP?
If I didn't want Flynn, I'd go all 3.
Yep. No, 100%. Scrolling through some of the questions, most of the questions are very similar to what we've had beforehand. So I do thank you for everybody posting that. And especially structure ones. When it comes to like individual structures, just hit one of us up on X. It's easier for us to talk about your teams with that. But obviously, Swank, a big fan of Scott, so maybe hit him up for that one. We did talk Jonas Goat. Thank you. You always jump on as well, mate, about Sam Taylor earlier in the show. So there's some great chats. So maybe rewind. I think it's about in the first half an hour. Joven did talk about that really well too. So I do appreciate that one. I think we'll take this as the very last question because we've probably gone. I've said to the boys, we'll come and do an hour show. We've gone 2 hours. So I really do appreciate them jumping on and doing this for me. But Nelson, cheers for the pods, boys. Much appreciated. Tips for the weekend. So, and how much is my Tigers going to lose while our in Scots and our Tigers? So we'll kind of just go around the room. We'll finish this off and we'll just talk about the footy side of things. Carlton are going to beat Richmond. Joven, by how much?
300 points. Nah, I reckon it'll be. It could be it could be 80 points this week. I reckon.
JP,
Hoping for a hunch, but 40 to 50 for me.
that's Scott.
When Carlton were bad, Richmond always struggled to beat a bad Carlton. Okay, and that's when Richmond were premiership contenders. You're going to see a close game, and I actually think it's going to come down to the last kick of the game, and Richmond's going to win by 1 point.
Oh, mate, that'd be brilliant. I think the Blues get up by 50 points of that, so Kerno out hurts them a bit. I think it'll be close at half time. It's probably going to be a 1-2 goal game, and then Carlton will just run. We'll run our legs as the game goes on. Hawthorn, Essendon, and we'll kind of go a couple quick answers here, Joven.
Hawks.
Scott?
Hawks for the premiership.
Yeah, they look good, don't they?
Hawks
JP?
easy. Hawks easy.
Hawks easy. We know Joven's picking the Cats against Fremantle, but I'm on the upset. I think the conditions are actually very Perth conditions this week, and they don't mind playing down there. So I'm actually going on the upset. I'm going Fremantle. JP?
Yep, Fremantle.
Scott?
I'm going to Cats. I think the Cats are going to win this one.
Nice. Sydney Brisbane's a really interesting game out there, guys. It's I think the Lions. I didn't like what I saw from the Swannies last week. Jove?
Yeah, well, I'm going up to the game with my mate who's a Sydney fan, so I will be hoping that the Swans win because it's going to be a long car ride back if they don't.
Love it. JP?
Brizzy.
And Scott?
Well, the Lions started bad last year. I think history's going to repeat itself. I think Swans will win this one.
Like it. Any love from North Melbourne for against the Doggies?
I think they win.
Oh, Scott, love it.
I've got North Melbourne.
They could.
Joe?
Yep, same.
And you as well, JP?
Yeah, possibly. Tight game.
Yeah. I was chatting to someone about this the other day. The odds for North Melbourne were absolutely ridiculous. It's for a game which is going to be quite close to that. I think I've got the Bulldogs but I think that's going to might be the game of the round, that one. Pies, Port Adelaide. Geez, I really want to pick against the Pies, but I don't think I can. Joven?
I'll go Port. I think Collingwood looked terrible last week, and I rate Port fairly highly. Jason Horne-Francis, 3 votes.
Love it. JP?
Yeah, Port for me as well. Pies look dogged.
Scott?
Yeah, I'm trying to get 0 tips right, so I'm going to go the opposite of everyone else again. I'm going to go the Pies.
Yeah, I love that strategy. Anyone picking the Saints against the Crows? I think the Saints are pretty average. Yeah, no love there at all. Melbourne GWS is the other probably cracking game this weekend. I might even be with that one of my closest mates. So I'm gonna pick the Giants. Jove?
I reckon D's, just because Giants aren't at full strength. I think both of these teams are going to be real good this year. I reckon D's could be in for a bounce back year. I'll go them, but yeah, Giants, if they're at full strength, I reckon they'd have them.
JP?
D's. Just.
And Scott?
Gorn, 3 votes.
Yeah, I like it. I think that relies a lot on Jesse Hogan being named for them. And the lucky last one is West Coast, Gold Coast. For me, it's the Suns. Jove?
Yep, go the Suns.
JP?
West Coast.
Ooh. And Scott?
West Coast. I think West Coast are going to win as well. I'm going for 0 wins, remember.
Beautiful. Jove, any last advice for our community out there, mate?
Just enjoy the weekend. It's going to be players that you think were good picks and they're not going to pan out. So just prepare yourself to ride the ups and downs of the weekend, but most importantly, have fun, enjoy watching your players, score some good Supercoach points again. It's an exciting time. So try not to get too stressed and just, enjoy it. That's what I'd say.
JP?
Sid Draper, not getting much love. He's a gun player, ready-made. He might be sub in the first week or two, but the people are going to want him soon thereafter. I'm going to start him.
Love it. And Scott, final thoughts, mate?
Make sure you have your emergency set correctly, and make sure that your sub is not a player that's going to be your flex is not a sub player. So if you see a rookie that's going to play, put him into that flex spot, unless you got a ruckman there like Flynn. But if you got a midfielder at flex, make sure it's one that's not a sub. So be careful.
Yeah, love that. And I don't think anybody could muck up not having their emergencies on, because it's not like Supercoach hasn't told us about that all pre-season. But nonetheless, thank you to everybody that's jumped on, everybody this pre-season. Joven, good luck to going back to back. Thank you so much for joining today, mate.
Thanks very much, mate. You're going to need a lot of luck, but hopefully it should be a fun season.
JP, you'll be trying to rebound and get that trophy again, so you can keep going over and get working that barley tan. But appreciate you, mate, for jumping on.
Thanks, David. Always a pleasure, mate.
Yeah, the only person in the world that calls me Dave. Thanks you. And Scott, mate, you're an absolute gem of the Supercoach community. We know the love out there for you, buddy. Appreciate you giving up so much time to come join us tonight.
That's right. Thank you. And next time you say it's a 1 hour episode, I'm going to prepare the clock for 2 hours, because I'm going to know it's going to go for 2 hours.
You're going to kill me. I was thinking that the entire way through. I'm like, you're going to kill me, mate. And big shout out again to everything that Scott's been doing. They've got up to 478. If there's 22 more people out there that haven't signed up to his league, get in touch with him. Let's get to 500. But no, thank you so much, guys.
Yep. Thanks, boys.
Beautiful.
Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone. Catch you soon. Bye.